Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to a new year of our council meeting, and I'd like to remind everyone to make sure that all their cell phones are turned off and are vibrate position, and we ask our city council meeting is broadcast on TV, Comcast 99. At this time, we'll call on the city clerk for the roll call.
Councilwoman Toles.
Here.
Councilman Williams.
Here.
Worthy.
Here.
Back.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Cannon.
Here.
And Reed.
Here.
We have a quorum present and our meeting is open for business. I'm going to ask Brian Harbison to lead the invocation. Please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will you pray with me? Almighty God, we thank you for today, and we thank you for what we've gone through in the last couple of days, Lord, with the recognition and the celebration of our veterans. We thank you for the veterans who are here in this very room standing today. Thank you for the sacrifices they have made, not only here, but all around this country and across this globe. God, we thank you for our new council representatives who are here today to make their sacrifice. And God, we just pray that you will give them the wisdom and the knowledge they need as they represent Councilman Wilson in District 5 and Councilman Back in District 4. We just thank you for this council and the work they do, and pray that you will grant knowledge to Councilwoman Toles as she takes up the gavel, God, and she directs this council in the next 4 years. We just pray that you'll bless her, continue to bless the mayor and his staff. We thank you for your blessings on Gadsden. We promise to give you the praise and the glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the organizational work session that was held on November 4th and the city council meeting held on November 5th.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries to approve minutes.
The chair will entertain a motion to ratify payments of accounts for the week of November the 2nd through the 8th.
So moved. Second.
Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries to ratify payment of the accounts.
Proclamation.
Laura Johnson, are you here? And Craig Scott? Have a proclamation for manna. Whereas the city of Gadsden is committed to the welfare of its citizens, especially those in need. Manna provides for the physical and emotional well-being of our residents who are elderly and homebound by furnishing a daily nutritional meal and companionship. 126 volunteers delivered over 38,000 meals last year to over 150 clients. Donations from places of worship are one of the biggest sources of funds to sustain manna. Therefore, I, Sherman Guyton, Mayor of the City of Gadsden, by the virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim November 8, 2018 is Manna Sunday in the City of Gadsden, and hope that everybody will pay attention and be more noticeable about manna, because they're always needing volunteers. Sometimes, just from my own knowledge, that's the only person a lot of elderly people see all day. And they look forward to it. I used to have some apartments that people 55 and over, and when the manor people came around, they would really talk to them and visit with them, and that they just were really lonely. I'll tell you a little funny one real quick, and I'll get out of the way. But the little guy was, he'd been in 3 branches of service. I think he was 85, and I went by there one day, and he had Frank Sinatra singing. And I knocked on the door, and he said, "Come in." He was all dressed up, and you could smell a little cologne. I said, "What are you so dressed up about?" He said, "Well, they'll be bringing my manna lunch in a while. I thought I'd put Frank Sinatra on and let her listen to it."
You ready?
My name's Craig Scott, and I'm the board chair for MANA. I've been involved with MANA for about 1.5 years now, and I've had the privilege of really seeing how that organization functions. Laura is our executive director, and she and the staff run a marvelous program. I've also had the privilege of running some routes, and like the mayor said, it's a joy to go and deliver someone's meal and be their only person that they talk to. And Laura has told me some other stories about folks, our MANA volunteers, finding some folks that need some help, meaning health-wise. They're on the ground, they fainted, that sort of thing. So they're kind of watchdogs as well when they make the routes. Laura?
Thank you everyone, and thank you Mayor Gott, and everything he said was true, and what Craig touched on. We are kind of like a lifeline, and for lack of better words, just recently there was a gentleman that laid unconscious for 14 hours till our volunteer got there. And so it's so much more than a meal, but a lot of the people we serve, they live off of less than $749 a month. So it's hard to afford groceries, let alone if you have disabilities that keep you from preparing meals for yourself. So I appreciate it on behalf of myself, the MANA staff, and our MANA board for everything that the city does for us, because it makes it able for us to do for others that can't do for themselves. So thank you.
If someone wanted to volunteer, how would they be able to?
You can contact us at MANA. Our office is in Riverview Hospital on the 5th floor. We actually have an ad in the little coupon books as well. You might see a couple cars going around town that has the MANA insignia on the side, a magnet sign. But the easiest way is to give us a call. It's 543-5876. They can let you know at information at Riverview, but we definitely need volunteers. I'm actually glad you brought that up. I'll only take a few more minutes. I actually took 3 calls this morning before I got here from people that need our service, but I don't have enough volunteers to get to the area where they are. We, at this time, do not have a route in Riddles Bend, and I do not have any routes close to 278, which is still a Tala. And I need more volunteers to get meals out there. So thank you.
Thank you.
While I'm up here, we have a new director at the library, Craig. Would you come up here, Craig? He's been with us how many years?
12 years.
12 years at the library, and he's going to be the new director. The other one, moved, so would you like to say anything?
I sure would.
Okay.
So 12 years ago, I joined the library and became known as library guy. And I'm still library guy, okay? So I had my first staff meeting this morning, and we have a marvelous team over there. I know what this library does. I know what the library will do in the future. I got some good plans, and I know the history of the library too. So very proud to, and humbled really, to take the director's position and move this library forward.
Thank you, Mayor. Unfinished business, we have none. The nuisance on the property at 1028 Peyton Avenue has been abated by the owner. Therefore, no action is needed by the council. This is the time and place as advertised to conduct a public hearing allowing anyone to speak in opposition to or in favor of a resolution, abatement of nuisance on property located at 518 Sewell Street in District 1, Alex Haley, estate of Zebedee Burnett, estate of Mary Burnett, Maurice Burnett, and Charles Woodley being the last known owners. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this resolution? Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor?
Madam President, I'm Brian Harbison with the Building Department. We started our case in November of 2017. There have been no improvements to the property. There are no permits to improve, and we're asking today for a resolution to abate this nuisance.
What is the pleasure of this council? I move to abate.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor to adopt the resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries to adopt.
Our next public hearing is a resolution ordering abatement of nuisance on property located at 503 North 10th Street in District 3, State of Alabama. The rights of redemption of David C. Pointer Jr., James Alexander Jackson, and Kalitha Shaniqua Ali being the last known owners. Is there anyone to speak in opposition to this resolution? Is there anyone to speak in favor?
Madam President, we filed our case in March of 2018. There have been no improvements. There are no permits to improve, and we're asking today for a resolution to abate this nuisance.
What is the pleasure of the council?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor to adopt the resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,
Our
Motion-
next public hearing is a resolution abatement of nuisance on property located at 560 Tyler Street in District 3. This is the estate of Nola Aaron and George Aaron and Erman Lee Aaron being the last known owners. Is there anyone to like to speak in opposition to this resolution? Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor?
Madam President, we filed our case in January of this year. There have been no improvements. There are no permits to improve, and we're asking today for a resolution to abate this nuisance.
What is the pleasure of the council?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Are there any discussion? Clerk, will you take the vote?
those in favor to adopt the resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries to adopt.
Our next public hearing is a resolution assessing nuisance abatement lien for demolition on properties located at 2911 Hartford Street in District 6. This is Shoni R. Bankston in care of Rosie Chapman being the last known owner, and the amount is $1,940.88. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this resolution?
Madam President, I spoke with the owner of this property and talked with Alva immediately before the meeting. She actually went upstairs and is trying to set up a payment schedule. At this time, I would ask that the council table this case for 14 days, and then I'll be able to report back to you at that time whether or not we've agreed on a payment plan. Thank you.
Wait, can I say something while he's up there?
All
Please.
right.
Going back to this next one, that's not the same house I went and looked at this morning. So could we check the addresses on that, please? On the one from 560 Tyler Street?
I'm sorry, what are you asking?
To make sure it's the correct address. There's a
560 Tyler?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yes, that is correct. We
Okay.
actually did rehab on that house maybe 12 years ago, and gotten to the point where just not being maintained, and as you could tell in the pictures, the yard is just full of junk.
Yeah.
But that is the correct address, yes.
Okay.
Is that what you needed?
Yes, because it's a house that's next to I just might have looked at the wrong one, but I will go back and check it myself.
Okay.
What is the council's pleasure on?
Madam President, on recommendation of the building department, I'll ask for a 14-day table, please, so we can try to get this worked out about the money on it.
Second.
Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor to table the resolution for 14 days, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries to table for 14 days.
Our final public hearing is a resolution rescinding resolution number R-104-18, and the council ordered abatement of the nuisance of 617 Turntime Street in District 5 on March the 20th of this year. Since that time, a prospective buyer has come forward and expressed interest in purchasing and rehabilitating the existing structure. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition of this resolution? Please state your name and address.
My name is Glenda S. Jackson, and I live at 634 Turntime Street. Before getting started, I have a letter here from one of the residents who wasn't able to make it here, and I had spoken already to Ms. Nelson, and she told me to give it to her. And there are several other individuals who were in opposition to this, but one of them thought that she could get off, and she couldn't, and the others are working. So, and there are two other persons in the audience, and one of the others will come up, and they are in opposition also if the council will grant them Ms. Nancy Bean permission to come up to speak also. In opposition to 617, let's give a little history of 617. 617 Turntime Street has been empty for the last 6 years. We had residents at the house. Then it was put up by the real estate company for sale about 5 years ago. In fact, my landlords made an offer to the real estate company to buy it at a nice offer of about $15,000, and they didn't accept that. And so it stayed on the market, and then we had some people who rented it, and they moved out, and they abandoned it. And then the last person to live in it was an individual that, and several of us met with Councilman Wilson on November the 5th to discuss the concerns of the neighborhood with 617. And so the last occupant of the dwelling was an individual who was a drug dealer. And at night, it was about midnight one night about 4 years ago, another neighbor and I who lives across the street from the house, she lives at 614. I called her because I heard the people, a car parked across the street from me, and individuals got out of the truck. And I'm very observant in my neighborhood, and we used to have 8 drug houses on my street. And so we've had problems with drug activity. In fact, two individuals were, 2 different rental houses were just narcotics agents on October 29th arrested a individual across the street from me, and then at 6:49 up the street, the narcotics agent arrested two individuals, husband and wife, for methamphetamines, selling heroin, and a gun in their dwelling. So, and we've had to, and we make calls to the police department, not just me, but it's about 3 or 4 others on the street that make calls. And so going back to what happened that night, the individual, I called Donna, and she looked out, and about 2 a.m., people were waiting for the man at 617. He was beaten down, pepper sprayed, kicked in, and we had to call the police. And it has been a nuisance of 617, and it has been empty, as I said, for about the last 6 years. And it has been on the market, and it's been abandoned. And in March, it was voted for it to be demolished. And we in the neighborhood are requesting that you honor your vote that you voted in March to demolish the dwelling. We don't want continuous problems on our street. And so we are requesting, and the concern that I have is that if the city council rescinds this, you set up precedent of further or even retrospectively of individuals who would come and they would have the right to, because you would have granted it to one person. So when you open the door, which is a Pandora box, you're going to allow others who would want to do the same to come to you. So we're asking you to respect your decision that you made in March and honor the work that the building department does in going from neighborhood to neighborhood. And we don't know, we had one owner who bought the duplex up the street, and he said that he was going to fix it, and this is one of the dwellings that drug activities have been going on. So we have landlords who come in, and they say that they're going to do this, and they're going to do that, and they don't. And we in the neighborhood have to end up being the babysitters. And we have called the police. I don't know how many times, and it's just not me calling the police. A lot of people think it's just me, but no, we have others who call the police who are concerned about our neighborhood. And we would like for you to respect your decision and honor what you voted, and not rescind this vote that you voted in March. And we're asking it for it to be abated and for it to be demolished. And if it's okay with the council, Ms. Nancy Bean, who lives at 615 Turntown Street, she would like to speak, and she, Miss Nancy, you wanna come on up?
Ms. Jackson, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that could be done to this property that you think would add to the value of the neighborhood?
No, sir, because we've had too many negative things from landlords who have come in and said they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and they don't. And we will be the ones who have to end up being the babysitter and the police, and frankly, I've gotten tired.
Thank you.
Your name and address.
Excuse me. Nancy Bean, 615 Turrentine Street. And I apologize for my voice. If it goes out, I'll start over or just say time, and I'll try to. I live at the house next door to this house. I have hoped for years that someone would move in there and do a nice job with it. It just hasn't happened. I've lived alone. Go back. My mother moved into the house when I was 3 years old, and I'll be 80 in December. So I've been there quite a while, except I went away to school. I got married. I moved out of state, but I came back 25 years ago to that house, and she died, and it's my house now. I take pride in my yard. It doesn't do any good anymore because I'm not kidding you. I'm not very tall. The weeds have been, I can't even walk over there to try to sweep them off for them. Weeds up to here. I've had reptiles, and I hate them so badly, that crawl from that yard over into my yard, my driveway. And I'm not talking about little garter snakes. I'm talking about the real recurrence. I don't know what they are because I don't get it close to them. I had an infestation of fleas that came from over in that yard, from where all the animals just stay. Never had fleas in my house in my life. I've been still paying to get them out. And that's where, they said they sourced it from there. But the main thing is, I think it's in such bad condition that I don't want to see anybody else come in, and I'm not saying you, but slap a coat of paint on the porch and they'll board it up and call it fixed. Somebody will move in, and 2 months later, they'll pay that rent and the deposit. 2 months later, you know what you see? Their mattress and one chair they might have brought in out on the sidewalk, the gutter again, they're gone. And it stays empty again. I've seen people out there at different times. I know they're homeless, and I'm sorry about that, they're vagrant people, but that doesn't make me feel any easier. I'm not afraid to live by myself, but I certainly want to be protected. And I know that they go in there and they live. They break the locks off, but that's my concern, is I'm afraid it'll just be like it's been for the last 10 years. You know, cosmetic, just Band-Aid on it, and then, because if you have out of town, no disrespect to anyone, but if you're out of town, you don't know who's in there. You don't know what's happening. I do. I see it. I call the police. Sunday calls the police. Donna calls the police. And they come. I mean, but you know, it's just endless. It's just a thorn in my side, really.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate the council. Thank you very much. Mr. Loveland is back here, but he's shy and he doesn't want to talk.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor?
Distribute these, please. My name is Danny Price. Purchased this property approximately 1 month ago. Prior to purchasing the property, I did address the city council in the pre-council meeting. That was mainly to find out 2 things: whether or not the building department could issue a building permit on a house that had been previously issued abatement notice of nuisance, and also whether or not the council could rescind their resolution. That was the discussion had at that pre-council meeting led me to believe that I was to present at this meeting my plan going forward of what I was going to do with the property. To address the condition of the property, as Mr. Harbison noted in the earlier meeting today, when the nuisance abatement was issued, his department evaluated the property and chose to abate it themselves. In other words, they were going to fix it themselves. As he stated earlier today, he could not find a contractor that was available at the time to do the work. So as to the condition of this house, as you can see in the pictures, it is not falling in, it is not leaking. I've been inside the property. The property is very much rehabable. My plans for the property is to rehab it so that it passes rental inspection, to bring it up to code, to pass the rental inspection. Going forward, I do plan to rent it. I plan on using a local property management company, as with other properties that I'll have in Gadsden. I already have another one. That is to address any concerns of trying to reach an out-of-state owner. I won't be managing the property. I won't be dealing with it day to day. There'll be a local property management company that deals with that and any concerns that come up with the property. I'm as anti-drug as anybody. I do not wish to have any type of people in the house that have anything to do with drugs, distribution, or use. And to prohibit that on my properties, what I do is I ask for a prohibitive rental application fee that dissuades certain people. I run background checks. I run credit checks. They have to have a stable job. I'm not going to rent to just anybody. I will wait until the right applicant comes along. Ideally, if I can legally do it, I would rather rent to someone 55 and older. I think that's all I have.
Sir, can I ask you one question? You said you've had this property for about a month. You've been on it for about a month, but I was thinking last week you said y'all didn't own the property yet.
At that meeting, we had not.
Okay, how could you last week you didn't own the property, but you said you've had the property for a month. I don't understand that. You just said in your own words you've owned the property for a month, but last week you didn't have the property.
No, it's 2 weeks. I didn't mean a month. I mean, at the prior meeting, the last council meeting, which was, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you didn't have the property.
No, I didn't have it at that point. I was here that day to execute the deed and to pay for it. And I went out and met with the attorney who represented the seller, and I executed the deed then and had it filed that same day. So I've had it for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I've been inside the property. I went inside the property that day, as well as since then, I've been inside the property to evaluate it. And I met with the building department to go over what notes they had as to condition of the property and what it needed. So I was aware of that before I executed the deed, before I purchased it.
Any other questions from the council members?
If possible, I'd like to hear from the building inspector. Just his comments about the state of the property.
Mr. Harbison?
Councilman Wilson and rest of the city council, as far as my opinion, it's been stated here today from both sides. Obviously, one side feels the house is salvageable, and at one point, the city of Gadsden decided to move forward and try to save the residents. For those of you who aren't aware and haven't heard this enough, 42% of every dwelling unit in Gadsden is rental property. 95% of everything we take down and take to the landfill as far as demolition, 95% is rental property. We are losing our rental stock. I'm in favor of doing everything that I can and my department can to help slow that bleeding. We instituted a program with the mayor's approval and backing almost 12 years ago to try to provide rehab on certain houses that we felt like if we could go in and remove the nuisance but save the house, that was our intention. We've been successful in about 50 of those, but unfortunately, when the housing stock in this city is on average, how old, Councilman Worthy?
7, 8 years old.
And he reminds me of that daily. We're dealing with a very old housing stock getting older. So anything that we can do, we will certainly try. If we just went out, and I'm not saying anyone has made that statement today, if we went out and started demolishing houses because they were vacant, we're going to end up a ghost town and we'll all be looking for a job in a year. So that being said, I'm not opposed to anything being saved if it can be, if that helps.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
And can I ask a question? If we did rescind this, would this be a slap in the face to you? Would you?
No, I wouldn't take, I don't take anything this council does personally, trust me. I think I've made that clear to you I've been attending these for 27 years, and nothing you can say will cause me to not want to come back next week, trust me. Whatever this council chooses to do, I look at every case separately. I think every case should stand on its own merit. And if you choose to rescind your resolution, that's up to you. If you decide to allow your initial action to remain in place, I believe this property owner understands the next step in the process, and he's willing to do that, and that's fine. Like I said, in the end, if we can save a structure for a family, and I don't care how old they are, I don't care where they come from. He's got in his mind who he would like to rent to, and I understand why. But if we can save a house, that's my intention, and I believe that's what the mayor feels, and that's the direction he sent me in 12 years ago.
Mr. Harbison, so just to be clear, it's your position that this house is rehabable at a level that's not cost prohibitive to the average investor willing to come in and rehab?
That is my position as I stand here today.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Now, if the city was going to rehab the house, we only going to put, what, $5,000 into it?
Not necessarily. Our cap, we set in-house at 20% of the most recent tax appraisal For instance, if this house appraised for, Etowah County appraised it for $40,000, then we could spend up to $8,000 on rehab. And what we do is rehab the outside. We don't touch the inside, but we do look at every case individually. If it needs a new roof system, we normally won't touch it because already you're way into the appraised value. If it's damaged to the point of no return as far as termites, that's a very expensive fix. I've been in construction my whole life, so I understand what is salvageable and what is not. This particular house, because we wrote the specs, we wanted to save it. But my only alternative, once we didn't receive any bids, is to carry out the demolition. Any other questions?
Madam President.
Yes.
Just returned from National League of Cities annual meeting, and I attended 2 conferences, if you will, 2 meetings on what we're talking about. And this problem, this challenge that we have, every city in the nation has. You were trying to find a bid and you couldn't find a bid.
We sent bids to all of our normal contractors, right, who may be 10 or 12 contractors who are small-time contractors, and we'll work on a project under $10,000, because when you hit $10,000 in residential, you get into a whole new ballgame of state license requirement for home builders. And so that's another reason we try to just stay as simple as we can, save the structure, remove the nuisance from the neighborhood, and go through the process, assess the lien if necessary, foreclose on if necessary. We've done that over a dozen times. Then we can sell that foreclosure deed and get our investment back. I mean, this is taxpayer dollars. This is not my money. And so we try to do that to the best of our ability. But yeah, anytime we can save one, we try to do it.
It seems, and I spoke with the gentleman upstairs, it seems that he will fulfill what you were trying to do and weren't able to do because of I think of the restrictions that are placed on your department. This gentleman and his wife are willing to put the money into the house. I asked him a question. I know a little bit about this. You have an outlay of cash and you have to get a return on your investment, and that's predicated by the amount of rent you're able to charge. His market research shows that he can put the money into the house, bring it to where it needs to be, where it's habitable, charge a nominal rent fee that will meet his performance standards in his portfolio. This gentleman comes from out of town. He has, I mean, I've just met him. I don't know you, but I'm saying, but you want to invest your money in Gadsden. Concern that I see is that Gadsden needs more revenue. And I think the minute we tear a house down, then we lose the opportunity to get revenue from that parcel of land.
In 100% of those cases, we lose dollars.
Every time. So, you know, it's just a simple mathematics thing here. We need more revenue. So we need people owning houses. In this case, you'd be the owner, and you're going to rent it, and then you're going to pay taxes, and then we receive that tax money, and that's good for the city. I understand the concern from the citizens that live on Turrentine Street. I don't know y'all personally, but I know y'all appear to be fine folks. I don't know what process would be involved, but I could picture another fine family, just like you folks are fine families, living in that house that would upgrade the neighborhood. Well,
Out of order.
No, ma'am. I don't think you. Well, I can't speak directly to her, Madam President. I don't think anybody knows who will live in that house. But it goes back to a decision of. Right now, it's not good. I think there's an opportunity for the city to maintain a tax base that we need and to have revenue come. This gentleman and his company's willing to invest money in our city. I don't see people lining up out there looking to do that. So thank you for being willing to come to Gadsden to invest your money. I've been riding around a lot. I've campaigned for about 6 months, and then I had a son-in-law run for a position, and I've campaigned all over Etowah County, walking the streets, and I see a lot of need. I see a lot of empty houses. I had a lot of conversation with other council members at the National League meeting, and they have similar problems. So I think Mr. Harbison has explained, we don't want to tear down, we want to build up, and I think, you know, we've gotten this out of order because you've kind of come to the game late. It seems like if you would have come earlier, there wouldn't be any of this discussion, and probably the House would probably have a tenant. So that's just my thoughts. Is that you know, if you're willing, you know, I don't think there's any way we put restrictions on who you can put in there, but at some point somebody has to go in the house. So I guess we have to trust that that type of person. I mean, at some point everybody rents a house that's renting a house, and it's probably a concern to that neighborhood. So I would just ask, if this does move forward, that you do the best you can through your local company to make sure it's the kind of people that these residents would like to have as a next door neighbor. That's all.
Madam President.
Madam.
I just want to say, and I appreciate all the comments here, and obviously this is a tough situation, because I think in any other scenario we probably would be excited to have somebody to refurbish a home in any part of this community. The challenge we have here, and kind of the flip side of the coin that I think these residents are concerned with, is the scenario where they don't fulfill these obligations, that they don't do what they say they're going to do. And the flip side of that from an economic perspective is having a dilapidated home on a street brings down the property value of every other property on that street, which also has a negative impact on the city's tax revenues. You know, so that to me, that's the real concern here, is that we are not in a position as a city council, as I understand it, to enforce any sort of requirements on these property owners to do what they're telling us they're going to do. There's no consequence that we could levy against them if they didn't do what they're telling us what we're going to do. And I think my constituents in District 5 on Turrentine Street, having dealt with this kind of Charlie Brown and Lucy, if you will, you know, the bad part of this is all of the history of this property, and how many times we've seen investors come in and say, we're going to buy this property and we're going to rehabilitate it, and then not do it. And that's the only people that suffer in that scenario are the people who live on that street, not the you know, the coffers of the city, so to speak. So I personally, for that reason specifically, not having the ability to require the new owners to do anything, there's no way we can actually oversee or regulate that. I think the right thing to do would be to allow this to move forward, potentially to a circuit judge with a restraining order, where that higher court could actually impose some restrictions on the property and penalties if those procedures weren't followed.
Are there any other discussion? What is the pleasure of this council?
Again, if there's a possibility for a resolution to come together between the people of this street and the owners, I'd be happy to table this for some period of time. But if not, I default to maintaining the abatement as it is, and allowing a circuit court to oversee any sort of contest to that.
So you move to abate?
Second.
Just to make sure I understand, we've already passed a resolution to abate. So,
right.
So we're voting on rescission, correct?
Yes, the resolution is worded to rescind the order to abate. So if you want to let the nuisance order stand as it was adopted in March, I would think no action on this, or maybe an indefinite table. I'll defer to the city attorney, of course, and his legal expertise.
Okay.
Well, if you pass the resolution, then it will rescind the prior resolution. If you do not pass the resolution, then the prior resolution stands.
So I'd make a motion that we not move forward. No action, I guess, would be the recommendation.
Second.
Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor to not pursue rescinding the order to abate and letting the March action stand, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the March order will stand. Motion carries.
Beat this one up. Resolution awarding bid number 3393 for traffic striping and pavement markers. The NEPA coordinator has recommended awarding the bid to Highway Management System. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor to adopt the resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries to adopt.
A resolution approving appointment of council members to standing committee. Each member chairs a committee and serves on two others. You have the General Administration Committee, Kent Back Chair, Jason Wilson, Vice President, Thomas Worthy, Member. Finance Committee, Deverick Williams, Chair, Cynthia Tolles, Vice Chair, Kent Back, Member. Education and Recreation Committee, Cynthia Tolles, Chair, Kent Back, Vice Chair, Deverick Williams, Member. Community Development Committee, Thomas Worthy, Chair, Johnny Cannon, Vice Chair, Cynthia Tolles, Member. Intergovernmental Relations Committee, Jason Wilson, Chair, Deverick Williams, Vice Chair, Ben Reed, Member. Public Safety Committee, Ben Reed, Chair, Thomas Worthy, Vice, Johnny Cannon, Member. Public Works Committee, Johnny Cannon, Chair, Ben Reed, Vice Chair, Jason Wilson, Member. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor to adopt the resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries to adopt.
This is a, excuse me. Could you wait, please, till your turn for coming and ask that question?
Okay, I don't want that to take away from my time, but if I ask that question.
We have to get consent from them. Let's just wait till your turn. We'll address that then. Resolution authorizing purchase of vehicles through state contract. This is for the purchase of 3 replacement DART vehicles from Transportation South, Inc. for a total of $166,320 with 20% of local match of $33,264. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor to adopt the resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries to adopt.
Resolution authorizing conveyance of surplus equipment. This is the sale of a 1995 E1 pumper to the Glencoe Fire Department for $7,000. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor to adopt the resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries to adopt.
A resolution accepting conveyance of property at 1811 Adams Street in District 5. The owner is James, is that Nays?
James? James?
James has offered to donate his interest in the property to the city. The resolution authorizes the mayor to acquire the state of Alabama's interest through a tax deed. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor to adopt the resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries to adopt.
Is there any new business?
Madam Chairman, I'd like to ask the council for unanimous consent to appoint Robert W. Eccles Jr. to the Water Board Authority for a period of 4 years to end in November of 2022.
Second.
I'd like to ask for approval.
Those in favor to consider the resolution today as an item of new business, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous consent has been given.
I'd like to move to adopt.
Second.
Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor to adopt the resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries to adopt.
Madam President, I have Resolution 643, authorizing agreement with Brian Cloudis, Experience for production presentation of Nakalua, a legendary story of Dundee love for dates between on and about May the 31st, 2019 through July 7th, 2019. Ask for unanimous consent to consider.
Second.
Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor to consider the resolution today under new business, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, consent has been granted.
I'll move to adopt.
Second.
Clerk, will you take the vote?
Those in favor to adopt the resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries to adopt.
I want to thank you very much. I think Derek was looking over here at me. Somebody might have said under discussion to explain this. And I looked in the audience and I didn't see Jen. I didn't see anybody that could do it. So thank you very much for not walking over me.
Well, since you brought it up.
Department reports, committee reports, board. Citizen requests, and Mr. Cole, I'll add 1 minute onto your 5 minutes.
Do that.
Rick?
You going? You going? Go in half.
What we discussed before you get started, what we discussed is in our pre-council is our decorum for meetings. And I explained that our council meetings are open meetings for the public, but it's for the city council members to take care of business, not for citizens, just automatic participation unless it's a consent from the entire council. And so that was the reason why, you know, I stopped there and allowed you the 6 minutes. So if you still want to ask the question, you may.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And President Toles, in the year of the woman, I want to congratulate you for being the first African-American president of the Gadsden City Council. And Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you and your staff for increasing the entry-level rates for the Gadsden Police Department. Several weeks ago, I had met with several members of the council asking about changing the procedures for public comment. And the procedure you have in place is a little burdensome, especially for seniors. Most localities allow citizens to come in, sign a register, and they're allowed to speak 2 or 3 minutes on any subject that they do. So I asked the council to take that in mind. I also have a copy of an ordinance that Birmingham has that I have presented to some of the council members, but the new members, I will give you a copy of that if you so desire. Also, at the last meeting I attended, I asked this council and the mayor to certify black businesses so they would be able to do city business. At this time, the city of Gadsden does not have a minority business list to show who are the minority businesses in this city. And I think this will help because contractors like to get subcontractors, but they don't have a list to go by as far as minority businesses. And if you were to certify the blacks, they could do city business and also do business with other contractors. And the city engineer, I asked him, could he do this? He said if the council or the mayor wanted him to do it, he could do it. So I don't see any problem with getting all minority businesses in this city certified if they meet the qualifications. Also, I understand that we may have some retirements coming up. And in the history of this city, there have only been 2 172-year history of this city. there have only been 2 minorities who have served as department heads. Some people may feel like that's been too many. So I asked the mayor and his staff that when an opening comes, I would like for you to really interview some minority applicants and see if we can get another minorities and department head. I know you hear this thing 26 and 0, 26 and 0. I didn't come here to talk about that, but I am asking you to do that. Another thing, Mr. Mayor, you are entering into your 4th term, and I would ask you to hire an African American as a member as one of your assistants. In a city that's over 45% black, I think it doesn't look good that you have an all-white staff when you could add an African American. And I don't want you to refuse to do this because I asked you to. I just want you to do the right thing. And if you're the man that people say that you are, and if you're the man that I know you say you are, then you won't have a problem in doing the right thing. This city has a racial divide. We have white citizens who meet at Meadowbrook Baptist Church. We have black citizens that meet at Crystal's and Shoney's, and they're meeting about each other. I asked this council to appoint a Citizens Advisory Council made up equally of black citizens and white citizens to deal with this issue and also other issues and bring back recommendations to this council how this may change the attitudes in this city. I also asked this council to take a lead, and the best way to do that is in January at the King's celebrations. To the mayor's credit, in all 12 years he's been here, he attends the meeting, he attends the celebration, he's there from beginning to end. But our white council members do not attend. There has been only one member on this council to attend the King's celebration, and that is Councilor Cannon. So you new members, I asked you in January to attend. We don't even have any white ministers in this city to attend, and very few black members. If we are going to come together as a city, it must start at the top, and I ask you to do that. I even asked these 3 gentlemen sitting at this table, the chief, the city attorney, and the engineer, come to the King's celebration. We have to come together. So a whole lot of stuff going on in this country, in this city, I mean in this state and all over. And if we're going to get together, we need to move together for the good of this city. You all have some challenges before you. I hope you are successful in your endeavors, and I want you to show the same level of respect for the citizens who vote at Carver, Antioch, East Gadsden Community Center, Thompson, Walnut Park, and Elliott. Show the same level of respect for those citizens as you do for the citizens who vote at Meadowbrook and Kiwanis. Thank you very much for allowing me this time to speak.
Mr. Coe, can I kind of add to that just a little bit, if you don't care? We don't discriminate against any contractors in the city of Gadsden. All we need to do is just come up here and get on the list. We can, you know, if they want to get on the list, that we're thankful they do. We don't discriminate against anybody for that. Me and you had a discussion about.
Oh, you know, I never accused you of doing that.
I know, I'm not finished. Let me finish, okay?
Okay.
Then you can talk if the president says you can. But we don't discriminate against anybody that wants to come up here and work for us. We want somebody that's qualified, somebody can do the job, have a license, pay the fees, and get the work done. That's all I'm concerned with, and do a proper job at doing the work, you know. That's all I'm concerned with. Me and you had a conversation a couple weeks ago about some people that I told you that were contractors that you didn't even know that were contractors.
That is correct.
And, you know, we have to get, we as a city have to get those people to come together, to come up here to let us know that they want to bid on contracts and stuff like that.
Well, some of them feel like the city don't want them, and I won't even get into the specific. That's why if the city does have a list, then, you know, when you send out your bids, or either when the general contractors come who wants to bid, they do have a list if they want to contact these individuals, or the individual can contact them. I just want the city to at least have a list so we know there are some. But it's their duty, it's not your duty to go to them. So I totally agree with you on that.
But what we need to do is just, you know, those contractors that you're talking about, just come up here and tell them they want to be put on the bid list, you know, for jobs like that, to go forth from this point on, you know. because like I said, I do work with, I've told you the guys I did work with in my office before, and they're good gentlemen, and they do really good work, and I use them, you know. And you can talk with them about me using them, you know.
I give you an example. We have some black attorneys in this city. This city uses attorneys to do work for different businesses. Now, maybe the city know who the attorneys are, maybe they don't. So your thing is that all businesses just need to contact the city and let them know they are interested in doing work for the city.
Yes, that's what I would say.
Okay, so it wouldn't have to go to certification. If they do that, that would be good enough. They
Yes,
got
sir.
to have the qualification, everything to go with
Yeah, and
it.
the licensing.
Okay.
And the equipment and the know-how
Right,
and the
everything
ability to do it, you know.
Okay.
Mr. Cole, brief advice, I would encourage you to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce as well. I mean, they're great advocates for small business owners, and they handle programs like this quite often. So maybe they can help in creating that master list of minority businesses in the
Okay.
community.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Remarks by the mayor and council.
Yes, I'd like to let Mr. Cole know that we have a black judge, female. We've had several minorities in different spots. We have a guy we hired a few months ago who is in Parks and Rec, Durrell. Can't tell you his last name. I think I counted here, a few months ago, and we probably hired around, I think out of the last 60 people we hired 30 minorities since I've been here. So anytime you want to come up to my office and talk about some of this, just like on the bid list, you know, that's all you got to do. We don't have to certify it. If you put your name down, your company number, and all that, you'll get an email or whatever about what we're doing and how it can be. We got a $5 million project going over in East Gadsden right now that's a minority business. So, yeah, you need to come where the facts are.
Oh, I'm coming with facts.
Yeah.
We still don't have any department heads.
Councilman Williams.
Excuse me, I just can't pass that up. I'm sorry. I guess we could lay off all the department heads and try to hire some others.
You didn't hear me say that. Don't go there.
Well, I'm going there because, you know, we just promoted. I'm not talking to him.
All right. Thank you, Madam President. Just as a follow-up to the 617 Turntine Street issue, and again, that's not my district, but I would encourage the potential investors, the couple that's here, to follow up with Mr. Harbison and the city attorney to figure out again what if any next steps you'd be willing to take. But I do appreciate this council for hearing both sides and hearing the citizens clearly within this discussion. Please continue to lift up in your prayers the folks in California. We, as was alluded to earlier, we were at the National League of Cities City Summit, and we were very close, probably within 40 miles of 3 pretty horrific incidents, 2 that were very majorly noted in the news media. The fires, where you've got firefighters who are fighting the fires, and while their homes are actually being destroyed by the flames. So please keep those folks in your prayers, as well as the violence that happened in Thousand Oaks as well. So, Mr. Cole, one of the things that I will say as it relates to the process, and this is for anybody, not just the citizen who chose to speak today. Municipalities typically are not in the business of and don't carry the credentials to certify MBEs, and that's minority business enterprises, or WBEs, or women-owned business enterprises. The reason being is because that requires a very significant and involved assessment of their financials, because it is a very common practice for individuals with the financial means to front their organization with a woman or a minority in order to secure minority business. And so one of the things that has happened in recent years through the Minority Business Development Authority is that they have a specific process for certifying WBEs and MBEs so that when a city actually secures them, we get minority spend credit. So we're not just dealing with the lead black face or female face, we're dealing with a true minority entity, an entity where a minority or a woman is actually signing the front of the checks. And so what we have done, what we did in 2014, by we, I mean this mayor and this council, what we did is we installed the minority inclusion, or I'm sorry, the Gadsden inclusion program. And the inclusion program partners with, to some degree, the South Region's Minority Business Development Council. And that group, who has the capacity to certify or provide a list of its members, is being used in both purchasing and hiring scenarios. Not many cities in the state of Alabama are doing that, and we took that lead several years ago. So at this point, the burden now is not on the city to do anything different. The burden now is on these minority business enterprises and women-owned business enterprises to gain the appropriate certification, make contact with the city to ensure that they're in line for any business that's available. And so we want to encourage them. We could line the walls with opportunities that have been granted to minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses. To the mayor's point earlier, the East Gadsden Community Center project has a very notable both female and minority architect on the list as the lead of that project. So opportunities are there, but they're not being spoon-fed. So if spoon feeding is what folks are looking for, that's a totally different discussion. But there is a process for minority-owned and women-owned businesses to be certified and to do business for the city. The very final thing I'd like to note is anytime we take these trips to the NLC events, for those who aren't aware of the purpose, it's not just because it's a nice opportunity, but there's quite a bit of work. Cities, quite often in today's political climate, in particular in the state of Alabama, you have people holding state office who have never served locally and don't know what it means to have to serve locally. And they don't know what your interests are, and they don't know what the interests of people are locally. And so because of that, they tend to align themselves with the lobbyists that are around them every day. You don't get the opportunity to be around them every day. They align themselves with those lobbyists. And so their interests get considered, but yours don't, typically. And so we have to be very careful with that. So one of the things that cities have had to do is cities have had to make sure that they partner with one another to address the needs of cities across the country. And so we met over the last couple days to talk about the tax-exempt status of municipal bonds. So many of the major projects, the big projects that you see that are being done in our city as well as other cities, that we're able to do them because of money that we're able to secure through municipal bonds. And those municipal bonds and that tax-exempt status is under attack. And so an official who's never served locally won't necessarily know that and really won't care. And really won't care whether or not you get that commercial development project in your community. So it's those things as well as federal money for infrastructure and fighting the opioid crisis and a number of things that are near and dear to us that we have to make sure that we're there to lobby for, and it's why Councilman Reed and Councilwoman Toles and myself are just a handful of people who serve on some of these national committees and boards and advisory councils to make sure that we've got a voice in all of that. So, so again, Councilman Williams, why do you go through all of that about the visit? I want people to know that it's not just a trip. it's an opportunity for us to be a part of the conversation about what's important for cities. So that's it.
Councilman Worthy.
Yes. Speaking along those notes from the National League of Cities meeting, one takeaway that I took from it in the seminar was speaking of the libraries. You know, they was having the same problems as most cities where we have homeless go to the libraries and sit all day. So what several of the cities are coming up with, they're partnering with the career centers, and they're coming in and they're teaching them and trying to give them a job, also feeding them, so they won't just sit around all day and be a nuisance. So maybe we can look at somehow coming up with some kind of program since we got the library director here and the career center manager, maybe y'all could get together and try to come up with something. Also, I want to give kudos to American Legion Post 322. We went out on yesterday to Gadsden Health and Rehab Center, and we presented plaques to 15 veterans from World War II on up. So we just want to say thank you to the veterans, and while we were there, we went there to honor them, but they honored us because they made cards and stuff for everyone on the executive board of the American Legion. So I appreciate that. And to you, sir, on third time, I would suggest that you go to circuit court and get a temporary restraining order, because I'm for all, if we can save a home, I'm for that, okay? Thank you.
Councilman Beck.
Thank you, and this is, I guess, my first real council meeting, so I appreciate the council's indulgences with the new guy learning this process. My first comment was about the Turntine Avenue, Turntine Street. It wasn't specific about that. It's just housing in general is kind of an interest in mine. Homelessness, things like that. There's a lot of cities across the country doing a lot of real innovative things. I think our city's doing some real innovative things. I think Mr. Harbison does, in his department, do a great job at what they do. My comments will be directed to the citizens on that street. Last thing I want to see is a house rehab and then somebody bad moves onto your street. I don't want somebody bad moving onto anybody's street. And we don't know who's going to move into that house. At some point in time, all of us moved somewhere. And so I don't know how we can ever police that and control that to a level where we can dictate where somebody can and cannot live. I'd like to see us, Gadsden is open for business. Our city and town is open for business. That's all the way from Buffalo Wild Wings to a family that wants to come in here and invest your money into housing, because we need housing and we need that tax revenue. It has to be done in a structured way, and it has to be done in a responsible way to the citizens on that street. And if you notice, I voted in favor of what we voted for, because I'm going to respect my fellow council members in what they want to do in their district. But I'm also going to respect the right that I have to speak if I have an idea or if I have an opinion that might be a little contrary to what other council members have. So over the next 4 years, you'll probably catch on to that, okay? And to you, Mr. Cole, I want to let you know, I'm a deacon at First Baptist Church Gadsden. We're located at the corner of 5th Street and Walnut Street. We've been there since 1927. 150 years ago, November of 1868, a group of our members that were African Americans amicably left our church with our help and opened up a church called Friendship Baptist Church. It's now known as the historic Friendship Missionary Baptist Church. My close friend, Pastor Keith Dudley, Earl Dudley, is the pastor there, and we've invited Friendship Missionary Baptist Church to come to First Baptist this Sunday. And Pastor Dudley is going to deliver the message in our sanctuary from our pulpit that's been there since 1927. I've been praying about this for a little over 2 years. I've been waiting for this 150th anniversary. So this is an open invitation on behalf of my church and my pastor, the Reverend Matt Alexander. It's open to the public. We're going to have lunch in our fellowship hall after the church service. We would love to see all of you there. And I couldn't agree more. There is a divide, and we need to be more deliberate in how we interact with each other, and hopefully this will be that first step. Pastor Matt and Pastor Dudley have met off and on for over a year, and I've met with them. They have a really good friendship. And so I'm excited about what this means for our two churches. I'm even more excited what this means for our city, and I'm even more excited what it means for the Lord and for this city, to invite the Lord to come into our city in such a way. So please know that everybody's welcome, and everybody's welcome to come and eat lunch with us as our guest. Thank you.
Councilman Wilson.
What time is the church service? It starts at 10:30. Thank you for asking that. I probably should have said that. Starts at 10:30, corner of 5th Street and Walnut Street.
Councilman Wilson.
Thank you. I want to obviously address the 617 Turrentine issue as well, just because I want you guys to know, and I echo Councilman Back's comments and Councilman Worthy's comments. I do think you should pursue this through the court system, only because I want you to know the only reason I made the recommendation that I did is because, again, I don't feel like the city has the proper tools necessary to ensure that you guys do what you say you're going to do. And given the unique scenario where you're kind of paying for the sins of the previous owner here, there's just been such a long history with this property, and my constituents have spoken loud and clear that they wanted to see this property gone. So I think if you do pursue it through the court system, at that point, at least a circuit judge could impose some minimum standards on you of what would have to be done to the property, which would hopefully go a long way to appease my constituents on Turrentine Street that were so vocal against it. So I just want you to know that's why I made the recommendation that I did to the rest of the council. I couldn't agree more with Councilman Back that we need your investment in this community. And I think my only public criticism I would give is that you bought the property first under abatement. I would encourage you to reach out to Mr. Harbison. I'm sure he could put you on a whole lot of properties in this community that people would be dying to enter into an agreement with you on. So that'd be my only public criticism would be I wish we would have done this in reverse, where we knew that the property could be saved but prior to doing that. But again, I won't tell you how to run your business. I know y'all are a lot better at it than I am. And Mr. Cole, I'll just make a comment to you in general, because I know we've never spent much time together. The simplest thing I can tell you without getting into some long-winded explanation is I'm the first generation of kids in this community that doesn't know what it's like to grow up in a segregated school. You know, I'm the first. I grew up on Chancellor Avenue. I've lived in downtown Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and downtown Atlanta, Georgia. I worked at Georgia Pacific. My boss was an African-American female, and her boss was an African-American female, and her boss was an African-American female. I know it exists. I hear you, and I'm willing to work with you. I just want you to know that it's not something you got to worry about with me. Thank you.
Councilman Cannon.
Thank you, Madam President. Since this looks like it's going to be one of the longest council meetings in history, I'm going to go ahead and have my turn that I need. Mr. Coe, first of all, I want to tell you that the city council here doesn't have anything to do with firing or hiring people. We don't hire people. This council doesn't do it. The mayor's office does that. Second of all, I worked with a gentleman named Eugene Harrell back in the 70s. No, from 79 to about 84, 85. Worked on the back of a 3-man garbage truck at that time, and Mr. Harrell worked side beside me. He'd been there for a good while, and he left and went to the steel plant. Then he came back, and he started in the workforce again, right beside me on that garbage truck, on the back of that garbage truck. He worked beside me. He came up through the ranks, and he was the director of public works at one time. Once he left director of public works, he went to over city services. He was director over city services. He was a good man. I say all that to say this. I think we should promote within. Mr. Scott, there's a prime example today, the library director. He's been there for a while and he's worked there. He knows the outs and ends of a library. I think somebody that works somewhere should have a chance of moving up in that department. I'm a perfect example of what I'm saying right here to you. In 2001 or 2, I was working in the Gadsden Public Works Department. I had about 21 years, give or take. There was a job opening, and the guy that opened was a supervisor in that Public Works Department. I'd had 21 years there. When he was out and when he retired, I filled in for him for probably off and on 6 or 8 months. Well, one day I came to work and they told me to leave early on a Friday. I didn't know what was going on. I left early, and went, thought, hey, I've got a little time here. I'd worked a bunch of overtime. I've got a little time here to do what I wanted to. I was telling the guys what to do, where to go, and how to work, and the streets and everything over it all, doing it at that time. Came in that Monday morning, noticed my desk, some of my stuff on my desk was missing, It was put over here and put over there. Well, I didn't pay any attention. Another supervisor came in the door, and he said, do you notice anything? I said, no. There was another name on that door. A man that had been at City Hall maybe 10 years, didn't have anything to do with what we was doing, came out there and took the job I should have had. That I'd been there working, and I'd been in that department for about 21 years. Well, I don't know if they felt sorry for me or what it was, but about 2 years later, I was made his assistant 2 years later. I was done wrong. I think we should promote from within. No matter what color you look like, we should promote from within, because that's the only way people can, these departments can get up and make more money. You can never be, if you're driving a garbage truck in the Public Works Department, you can never get ahead if somebody's going to go ahead of you. In that, well, I wouldn't say that, because right now, David Cooper, do you know David Cooper? David Cooper is in Public Works Department. But that's my say-so, and I want to get my time, so it's going to be the longest meeting down. I want to tell everybody that December the 7th and 8th from 6 to 7 p.m., Alabama City Gazebo, Santa will be there. You can come and make pictures with Santa. Everything's free. They will have candy, hot chocolate. So just make sure you come. They're going to be there the 7th and 8th of December from 6 to 8, Alabama City Gazebo. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilman Reed.
I tell you what, y'all about wore me out.
A little
bit longer. I should have been home an hour ago. I want to go by. I agree with you, Johnny. I was here when you didn't get promoted that time, if you remember, and I thought it was an unjust situation. But I appreciate what Dedrick said. He just reiterated what we've been over and over before on all this thing about the employees and then things, keep coming up. I would suggest in the future that we come up with new information from people coming to this stage to tell us something new, not keep harping about the old stuff and carrying on about it. We don't need it. I don't appreciate it, if y'all know the truth. I want to hear something new, innovative, and something you can add to this community, not something you try to tear apart and so on. I won't go any further with that. Gadsden Etowah Patriots Association, I appreciate them so much. The Patriots Luncheon last Wednesday was a total success, in part because of the venue. Absolutely beautiful. We filled the place up. The honorees, bless their hearts, wholly deserved it. The people at the venue, the staff, mayor, they couldn't have been any better. Everything went just right on top. So the servers, I don't know where you can get into thanking Lola's. The first time ever we had 500 people, and they did a sit-down dinner. They brought it to the table. But I want everybody to know I'm so proud of the Patriots. I'm proud of the veterans. And I don't want any more dissension in this town. I'm getting damn tired of it. Thank you.
I'm speechless. ladies out there, and I know Councilman Williams will say that this is a sexist statement, but these men have talked more. They talk more than we do.
Amen.
And they've had a lot to say. But I just thought if there was any pans, I'd take up a collection. Due to the observance of the Veteran Day holiday, yesterday, Monday, garbage route is being collected today. Tuesday's route will be collected on Wednesday, and the schedule for Thursday and Friday will not change. If there's nothing else, I ask for adjournment.
I move, yes.
No, let's stay longer.
Let me ask you.